Before we start this video, do like and subscribe to our channel and not miss on any updates.
Now, let us move on into the understanding of the syllabus. Let us see how many chapters we have, understand what all standards we are going to study, how this chapter and the standards are mapped together in the syllabus, how every chapter is going to discuss about a particular aspect, and also through this, I will give you a proper understanding of the flow and also some important words that we are going to study, which I call it to be technical terms that you have to study as a part of your auditing subject. Once you get a grip of overall this thing, we will be in a right position to get started with the discussion of the chapter 1. Clear? So let us first have a detailed understanding of the syllabus. So now we are going to discuss about auditing and ethics as a subject. Okay. So it is going to be complete 100 marks paper. Okay. And as I told you, the bifurcation is going to be 30 marks MCQ, 14 true and false, and then you'll be having the remaining 50 marks, which is going to be subjective. Okay. Now, as I told you, I will be studying completely in line with the ICI study material. So if you look at the ICI material, you'll be having 2 modules. So the first 5 chapters that we discuss will be discussed as a part of the module 1. And the remaining 6 will be the module 2. Okay. The only idea why I am showing you the entire structure of the subject is because you will get a clear understanding of how the structure or how the syllabus is designed so that the learning methodology will be correct. Okay. Now, altogether there are going to be 11 chapters, and I told you we don't have a separate discussion for standards and auditing. We are going to bring the standards as a part of this chapter itself. So this 11 chapters are theoretical part plus standards taken up together. Okay, the mapping is done very nicely. It is very structured, wherein all the relevant standards with respect to a particular chapter is covered in that chapter itself. Okay, so basically I call this to be one of the best ways of studying the subject. Okay, because all the connected parts are given together so that you'll be able to understand where in what position the standards will also become applicable. Correct? Okay, so now first chapter is going to be the discussion regarding, so the first is going to be regarding nature, objective and scope of audit. So by the very nature of this particular chapter, if you look at the first one, you'll understand that this is going to talk all about the basic things about audit. So you will get introduced to what is audit. You will understand why audit is conducted and what all is covered by audit. Okay. So basically what is audit, why it is done, and what all is the auditor's requirement. What does audit include and what audit does not include. So basically this thing, if you understand properly, you will get the base very strong. So usually whatever misconceptions are there, or we can say there is a gap between the understanding of the students, that thoroughly will get eliminated if you understand this particular chapter properly. So basically you will get an understanding of what exactly audit is. Second, you will also understand what is the myth about this is audit will also get eliminated from your mind. So basically the exact meaning of the word audit, what is audit all about? Why do we do audit? Objective, and most importantly scope. Many a times it is a misconception that people believe once the audit is done, things are all correct, everything is perfect. But that is a myth. Auditor checks everything. It's again a myth. So basically very, very important for us to understand that what auditor is supposed to do, what auditor is not required to do. All of that is going to be, when we discuss about scope, you'll be able to understand. See, when you talk to people coming from non-commerce background and all, the very understanding that they have in their mind is that auditor only prepares the financial statement. It is auditor only who prepares the financial statement, auditor only checks it, and everything is all clear and everything is correct. So these all things which are a kind of a gap which is in the understanding, all that will get eliminated if you understand the scope of audit correctly. Because you should know, when I gave the example now of a company, I told you it is the board of directors who will be responsible for the preparation of the financial statement. Auditor, what he will be doing? He'll be coming and checking whether financial statements are prepared appropriately as per the framework or not. Correct? So you know that it is the responsibility of the company to prepare the financial statement and it is the responsibility of the auditor to only verify it. So this all clarity you will be getting an understanding of what is the role of the management of the company, what is the role of the auditor when you get a proper grip of nature, objective and the scope. So here the institute has given now a very even prehistoric, like it's like a history of the audit also. So the origin of audit is also been discussed. So you will understand from where audit actually came up. The concept of audit is rooted where? So you will understand that very long back, okay, in all this BC periods also there was a concept of audit. Then in the medieval period also some way or the other this concept of audit did prevail. Then as the industrial revolution took place, people started preparing the books of accounts. Companies came into picture where there was a separation of ownership and management. Then audit became a different requirement where it got a statutory status, and then now it has become legally enforceable, like it is now required as a statutory obligation. So then came the Institute of Chartered Accountants, an established institute, a body which governs all this audit and everything. So we are going to study the origin very clearly. Then we are going to understand about audit, its limitations, what is audit all about, what audit includes, what it does not include, all of that. And then you have a basic standard called as SA 200. In fact, according to me, if you ask me which is the most important standard, I would call SA 200. Reason being, SA 200 talks about overall objective of the auditor. So basically, if you understand SA 200, you actually understood audit. So if you want to understand a summary of overall audit syllabus, the standard that you have to read is SA 200. SA 200 gives you an understanding about what audit is. So it will be telling you the definition of audit. It will tell you that the auditor is how he is required to perform the audit. That means he has to obtain evidences, then he has to document it, then he has to prepare, draw a conclusion, then prepare a report, etc., etc. So basically it will give you an overall picture of how audit is conducted. Then for evidence we have separate set of standards. For documentation we have separate set of standards. For report we have separate set of standards. So basically the overall audit, how it is done, you get a framework in SA 200. Okay, so this standard, according to me, I would call it to be very, very important because it gives you a basic idea about what audit is. So the first chapter is going to talk about SA 200, and along with that it is going to introduce you to some concepts, like you also have what are the qualities the auditor should have. And then there is something very interesting that we are going to talk about, which is brought in this new syllabus only. It was not there earlier. It is called as types of assurance engagements. So we have something called as reasonable assurance. We have something called as limited assurance. What is all this? What is an assurance engagement? What is the review engagement? All of these concepts are introduced now to you so that you will be able to differentiate between what is audit, what is review. Correct? But as of now, it is very fast for you to get it. When I come to that particular part, I'll be explaining it to you in detail. Okay? So that is going to be the overall discussion of the chapter 1, where you get the understanding of the basics, plus you study the SA 200. Clear? All right. Second chapter is going to talk about audit strategy, audit planning, and audit program. Okay? Now, understand audit. Is it not a responsibility entrusted on the chartered accountants? Can it be done anyhow, or it has to be a very disciplined manner, a very systematic manner? It has to be. Because the end result, the opinion that you're going to end up with, has to be a good opinion, that is the appropriate opinion in the given circumstances. The report that you come up are going to be relied upon by so many stakeholders. When you talk about a shareholder, you talk about the prospective investors, government, bank, creditors, employees. There are so many stakeholders who are going to rely on the audit report. So this audit which you are going to perform, can it be haphazardly done, or it has to be done in a systematic manner? It has to be done in a very systematic manner. And because of that, we get introduced to a concept of audit strategy, audit plan, and audit program, where you'll be understanding of how the auditor actually first makes a strategy of basically an overall understanding of when we are going to start the audit, what is going to be our reporting objective, when we have to complete the audit. So basically the overall understanding of the audit, or the overall picture of how the audit is to be performed, we call it to be the strategy. Then how we are going to do the audit in detail, that will be the planning. And when all this thing is brought into a paper, that means who is going to check what. For example, I have an audit team. So the person who does the audit, the main chartered accountant who is taking the lead of this audit, we call him to be the engagement partner. Along with him, there is going to be a team. That is called as the audit team. So we call them to be like basically articles, paid assistants. All of these will be together doing the audit. Logic is very simple. If you talk about companies, you talk about any business, one chartered accountant all by himself cannot perform the audit. He has to check so many things. So obviously audit is performed in a team. So the auditor and all the main people, like the senior people in the firm, will sit together and make the planning of the audit. What planning? When we are going to start the audit, how we will check the balance sheet items, how we are going to check the P&L account items, which are the debtors from whom we are going to get confirmation, what are the information we are going to seek from the creditors, what information we are going to get from the bank, okay, what all information we have to sit and discuss with the management, okay, all of this we'll be doing a planning. This planning, obviously, it will be written on a paper. And then to my engagement team, I'll be giving the work. Like A will be checking purchases, B will be checking the balance sheet items, C will do some kind of physical verification. So everybody will be entrusted with some responsibility and that all will be documented. So that is called as what? Program. So basically we'll be having a strategy, then we'll have a detailed plan based on the strategy design, and when this is brought onto the paper, we call this to be a program. Correct? So this is what we will be discussing as a chapter 2. And here we have a standard called as SA 300. And SA 300 talks about audit planning. This standard will tell of what is the responsibility of the auditor with respect to planning. Because there is a standard available, understand, it is not the choice of the auditor to plan the audit. It is obligation given to the auditor that look, whenever you do the audit, planning is important. You have to adhere to all the standards of auditing when you are going to perform an audit. So when the auditor is going to do the audit, it is not his choice to do the plan. It is his obligation coming from SA 300, which says, look auditor, it is your responsibility that you have to first plan the audit and then perform the audit. Got it? So that is covered by SA 300. And then we are going to study some basic concepts regarding audit program. What is audit program? What are advantages of audit program? What are disadvantages of audit program? How to draft the audit program? So there are some additional criteria which are not covered by the standard, which have taken a separate discussion. So basically, if you look at it, the chapter 2 will be talking about everything regarding strategy, plan and program, and we study SA 300 in detail as a part of this particular chapter. Okay, so if you look at it, in chapter 1 and 2, we actually finished the SA 200 and SA 300 and some basic concepts regarding the introduction and the planning things. Clear? Alright. Then, moving on to the chapter 3, which is very important for understanding and also exam point of view, where we talk about an interesting concept called as risk assessment and internal control. Audit basically is going to be something where you have to plan properly, and for that purpose you need to identify which will be the risky area and all. Now for example, when you talk about companies like Tata, when you talk about companies like Reliance, when you talk about partnership firms, when you talk about hotels like big hotels, 7-star hotels, 5-star hotels and all, which are all subjected to audits and all. If you look at this, tell me, is it possible for you to actually look into everything in detail? For you to check each and every transaction? There are going to be throughout the year lakhs of transactions. So because of that, what we do is, in order to do our audit properly, what we do, we first do the risk assessment. Risk means where there could be a possibility of error. This you need to understand. And based on that, where the auditor realizes this particular area is risky, this particular area there could be misstatements, this particular area there could be error, this particular area we think fraud could be there, this particular area is prone to be misstatement, it is an important area. There, the focus of the audit team will be more. So that is governed by the risk assessment concept. So when we do the audit, we first do the risk assessment. And to do the risk assessment, you need to understand the entity. You have to understand what all are the important areas, what industry it is operating in, what risk exposure it has, correct? Based on you do the risk assessment. And understand, every entity will also do their own risk assessment. So when you talk about a business, like for example, manufacturing, in manufacturing, inventory is something very crucial. So don't you think the business by itself also will be having some kind of control present wherein they will try to mitigate errors and frauds in that particular area? So this thing what is already in place by the management, we call it to be internal control. So what the auditor will do is, he will do the risk assessment, understand the type of risk, see whether control has been present in that particular area, and if it is there, the auditor will consider the risk to be high or low depending upon situation, and based on that he will decide what audit procedure he has to adopt. As of now, just get a glimpse of it. When I come to the respective standard, when I come to the respective chapter, this all things that I'm discussing about risk, different types of risk, control, we are going to have a detailed discussion. As of now, I only want to give you a summarized picture. So because of which I want you to know what is the content of the chapter. Correct? So here the auditor will do some kind of risk assessment and then check whether controls are in place or not. Based on that, he will decide how much procedure he has to adopt. If controls are good, less procedure. Controls are bad, more procedures. Correct? So all of this you'll be studying in the form of standards, essay 315, which will talk about risk assessment. Then we have a concept of materiality, which is going to be very interesting. And then we have whatever risk the auditor will find out, how he is going to respond to the risk as per essay 330. So here we have 315, 320 and 330. As I told you, auditor will not be able to check each and every transaction because there are going to be lags. Therefore, what he does is, he will freeze a limit called as materiality. So over and above that, if anything happens to be misstated, he is going to concentrate on that. Below that, if something is there, that is not to be taken into account. So this limit which the auditor will freeze, we call it to be materiality. And as an auditor, we are concerned with material misstatements during the course of audit. So this concept we study as a part of 320, which is materiality. And then first we identify risk, which are material risk. On that we are going to respond. Okay, and as I told you, we will study the concept of internal control, how to evaluate the internal controls, all of that. One more important thing as a part of chapter 3, we are going to study about a digital audit, which we basically call it to be audit in automated environment. Today the entire world is digitalized. So today all the companies, every businesses, you don't see them in manual books of accounts, you don't see physical copies maintained and all. All the things are electronic, digitalized. So don't you think audit also has to be digitalized? Yes. Earlier in the old syllabus, we had a separate topic altogether for audit in an automated environment. But now that separate topic has been eliminated and that digital audit has been brought as a part of the chapter 3, that is risk assessment and internal control. So in this topic, you also will be studying about automated environment. So you'll have different types of controls, different audit procedure. Auditor also will use some kind of softwares to do the audit. So all of that you'll get introduced as a part of this chapter. So one of the major discussion that we are going to have is this particular chapter 3. Okay, then. Moving on to the next one, we have audit evidence. Okay, before I introduce you to this, I'll have to give you something which is important. Now, when you talk about audit, you need to have a simple framework in your mind. Now, usually what happens is, this is the thing what happens. Let us take the example of a company. Suppose we talk about a company. It is Reliance Industries Limited. Reliance will first appoint the auditors. And when you study company law, you know, a general meeting will be conducted, that is AGM will be conducted. In the AGM, the auditor will be appointed. Once the auditor is appointed, this auditor will have a meeting with the management of Reliance. And they will discuss all the terms and conditions. So auditor will put forth all his terms and conditions and this management has to agree. If this happens, then we say that the audit is finalized and the audit will start. For the start, the auditor will do the planning of the audit. Based on that, he will do risk assessment, procedures and all, and he will start doing the audit. Then he will perform audit procedures. Audit procedure means he will do in a very simple language to understand. He will do inspection of certain documents. He will do inquiry with the management about certain matters. He will obtain confirmation from the bank. He will do some kind of physical inspection, physical verification of the inventory, the assets, etc. So all this inspection, inquiry and all, in audit we call them to be procedures. Why he does the procedure is because he needs to get information. In audit, this information we call it to be audit evidence. Okay, that means the auditor's duty is to perform the procedures and to obtain the evidences. Then he will collect multiple evidences and finally, taking into account all the evidences, he will come to a conclusion. And this conclusion he will give in the form of the audit report. Okay, and this is the audit report which the auditor will give it to whom? The shareholders. So basically, this is the way in which the audit is performed. So first the auditor will be appointed, then the auditor will enter into an engagement letter with the management. If the management agrees to everything what the auditor is telling, then there is a common understanding between them. Then you start the audit. Because audit is a responsibility, it has to happen in a systematic manner. So you will do the planning of the audit. Then you will decide about how to assess the risk, based on which you will perform the audit procedure. And audit, you have to start obtaining information based on which you will start drawing the conclusion, and final conclusion you will give in the form of the audit report. Also very important thing, whatever you do in audit has to be written, which we call it to be documentation. So be the engagement letter, be the audit plan, be risk assessment procedure, be audit procedures performed, be all the evidences obtained, be the conclusion drawn, everything will be written. In audit, we have an understanding, what you don't write is not done. Okay, so because of that, all of this thing has to be written, and that we call it to be audit documentation, and for that also we'll be having a standard separately. Got it? So why I gave you this procedure? Because you should understand the sequence in which the chapters are designed. So we understood that audit will start, that means audit planning. Okay, then we do the risk assessment, so we had the risk assessment. Then when the auditor performs the procedure, he is going to obtain evidences. So now the next chapter that we are going to have in our discussion is regarding what? The audit evidence. So it is basically the information which the auditor will obtain, on the basis of which the auditor will draw the opinion. Okay? But this time, if you look at this particular chapter, there is no content. It is everything standards only. So we have SA 500, we have all 500 series will be talking about audit evidence only. 500 is purely audit evidence. 530 is audit sampling. Sampling is, as I told you, all transactions we can't check. So we have to do some kind of risk assessment and pick up particular, things, particular samples on which you are going to perform the procedure, and then finally tell whether financial statements are correct or not. Okay, so that is sampling. Then we have some audit evidence in special areas. Then we obtain external confirmation as a part of our audit evidences. Then we perform some kind of initial audit engagements. Then we have analytical procedures. We have here related parties. So there are multiple things that we do as a part of obtaining evidences. Then something called as 610, using the work of internal auditor. If you are not able to the grasping is not happening about the standards name and all, as of now, completely avoid it, because we are doing only the introduction. Okay, all of these standards will be into your blood once we finish the subject. Okay, as of now, I'm just giving you a structure of this topic is completely made up only of standards. Okay, because everything that you study about audit evidence, a corresponding standard is available. Okay, and what is audit evidence? Information gathered by the auditor. He inspected something, he got the information. He observed something, he got the information. He did physical verification of the inventory, he got some information. He inquired, he wrote a mail to the bank manager, he got some information. To a debtor, he mailed something, he got an information, that is also audit evidence. So like that, the auditor will start collecting all the evidences, and once all the evidences are available, he will then form a decision whether things are appropriate or not. Correct? So that is what audit evidence. Now, I told you he has to obtain audit evidence regarding every matter of the financial statement. So this particular chapter in exam is major. It will be having good scoring for 10 to 15 marks. This is audit of items of financial statement. Now for this you need to get an understanding. When you talk about financial statements, we talk about 4. Balance sheet, P&L, notes to account, and we also have cash flow statements. So basically we can say cash flow statement and we have the notes to accounts. Okay, statement of change in equity also is there, but audit point of view we focus on these 4 financial statements. Okay, in balance sheet there are going to be assets, there are going to be liabilities. Here there are going to be expenses, there are going to be incomes. Okay, here there are going to be cash flow connected to all these matters. And then there are going to be supplementary notes for every matter of balance sheet, P&L and cash flow statement. Correct? Now, all the assets are considered to be item of financial statement. So land is one item of financial statement, building is one item of financial statement, machinery is one item of financial statement, then you have cash to be one item of financial statement, inventory to be one item of financial statement, trade receivable to be one item of financial statement. Liabilities, loan will be one item, creditor will be one item, correct? Then you have the shareholders funds, share capital, reserves and surplus. Correct? Here all the expenses, purchases, rent, okay, salary, etc. Income like sales, you'll have discount received, you'll be having commission earned, okay, interest on investments, all of that is going to be considered to be income. All of these are called as the item of financial statement. So what we are going to study as a part of this chapter, that is audit of items of financial statement, is every single item we are going to pick up, and we will understand how it is going to be verified. So like for example, when you talk about land, we are going to understand whether land is really there, is the valuation of land correct, is the land actually in the ownership of the organization that we are doing the audit, okay, who is the owner, is the rights actually there or not there, whether land has been properly valued or not, okay, is there any kind of revaluation, is there any kind of appreciation, whether proper accounting is done or not, whether proper disclosure has been given or not. Every single item we pick up, and we are going to have a detailed understanding of how the auditor is going to examine, scrutinize, verify, check this particular item of financial statement. So don't you think if you understand the structure itself, you'll understand that this particular topic is going to be a huge discussion. Okay, because every item of assets we pick, every item of liability we pick, every item of P&L we are going to pick, income, expenditure, everything, and we are going to have a detailed discussion of how the auditor will check it. Okay, then we get introduced to a concept of assertion, which as of now I'll not tell you what is assertion. When we come to the particular chapter, I'll explain it to you. And what we will do is the auditor will verify the assertions. Okay, so for example, if I tell building, the management is telling the building is 2 crore. So whether the building is really 2 crore or not is what we are going to check. So what the management is telling 2 crore, we call it to be assertion. And what the auditor will do, whether assertion made by the management is correct or not, we will perform the procedure, obtain evidence and decide whether it is correct or not. Correct? So that is the understanding with respect to audit of items of financial statement. It is going to be an elaborative discussion, which exam it is very, very important. Why? It's going to cover a major focus. Okay? Basically, this chapter will tell you how audit is done only. Okay, then. As I told you, whatever you do in audit has to be documented. Everything has to be written. Be engagement letter, be planning, be strategy, be who are a part of your engagement team, what is your audit program, what is a part of your risk assessment, what is the risk identified by you, okay, what is going to be your audit procedures performed, which areas you're going to consider, which areas, what sample size you're going to keep, then what is the information that you've obtained, what conclusion you have drawn, what communication you have done with the management, what information you have sought from the management, what misstatements you have identified, how you have evaluated. Everything that you do in audit is going to be documented. So basically these are considered to be working papers, and for this, because it is a legal obligation, we have a separate standard called as SA 230. This chapter is nothing but the standard. Clear? Then you have 7th one, which is called as completion and review. Okay, now for this to understand, I gave you the structure of how audit is done, correct? So I told you auditor will be appointed. He will enter into an engagement letter. He will do the plan, perform procedures. From the procedure, he will obtain evidence. From all the evidences, he will draw conclusion. And then finally, based on this, he will give opinion in the form of audit report. Correct? Now, understand. After obtaining all the evidences and after drawing the conclusion, but before giving opinion, there are some more things which the auditor has to do. Okay, that is before completing the audit in full. What is completion of audit? Giving the audit report. So after we do all the audit procedures, obtain evidences and scrutinize the evidences, but before we ultimately give the audit report, in this particular phase, there are some more things which the auditor will do. Like for example, we have to check whether there are any subsequent events occurring after the balance sheet date. So in accounting, when we talk about AS4, event occurring after the balance sheet date, like that in audit we call them to be subsequent events, event after the balance sheet date but before the audit report, correct? Those. Then we have the going concern assumption. Then what we do is, once we obtain the evidences, suppose we identify some misstatements. These misstatements we will be discussing with the management. Correct? So this evaluation of the misstatements, communication of this misstatement with the management, okay, then basically understanding, going concern is appropriate or not. Then some things we take it in writing from the management that they accept the responsibility, which we call it to be written representation. So after doing everything, but before giving audit report, some more things we have to do here. Those things we consider as a part of completion and review. Okay, so this particular topic, it was not there in the earlier syllabus, but now it is introduced, which we call it to be completion and review. So here we will be talking about, like if I obtain evidences and I draw conclusion, I understand there is misstatement, and this misstatement is material misstatement. So obviously when I identify a material misstatement, this thing I'll take up for discussion with the management to understand what, why, everything. So for this I have to communicate with the management, for which we have the standards called as 260, 265. I'll do the evaluation of the misstatement. And then I'll take some written things from the management that they accept the responsibility, which is called written representation 580. 560 subsequent events, then we validate going concern assumption, all of that. So this thing is going to be called as completion and review, where after doing the audit, after obtaining evidences, but before preparing the audit report, some more things have to be done here, which will all be covered through these particular standards. Correct? Then, after we do completion and review, then obviously what is remaining? We have to prepare the audit report, which will be having opinion given by the auditor. But then understand, audit report cannot be prepared at the whims and fancies of the auditor. For this, we have a very, very strict understanding of how it has to be. Logic is very simple. Every stakeholder, when he's reading the audit report, he should have a common understanding of how it has to be read and understood. So because of which, clear standards are available of how you prepare the audit report. So when you talk about standards, the entire 700 series of the standard talks about preparing of the audit report. So you have 700, we have 701, 5, 6, 10, 299. 299 is where audit is performed jointly. So we have a concept of joint audit. Joint audit is where, like in companies like Tata, Reliance, which are huge in size, it is impossible for one audit firm to perform the audit, however big it is. So in those cases where the size of the organization is very big, complexity is there, multiple subdivisions, multiple departments, multiple subparts are there, then in that case, because of the size complexity, impossible for one audit firm, however big it is, to perform the audit by themselves. So in that case, we come up with the concept that two audit firms will come together and perform the audit. So basically, when they come up with the audit, then they have to do the audit together, come up with a common audit report. And if they don't have a common audit report, then there is some different criteria to be followed. So that we'll be discussing as a part of 299, which is joint audit of the financial statements. Then we study some aspects of Companies Act about reporting by the auditors. And then we have the concept of CARO. CARO is Companies Auditors Report Order. In case of companies, apart from the audit report that you're going to prepare as per 700 and all that, which is required for everybody, for company, as per central government requirement, there is some additional reporting requirement. That additional reporting requirement is given in the form of CARO. An order is released by central government. Okay. So what happens is in companies, when you look at it, in company, a regular audit report will be prepared as per the 700 series. Along with that, because central government has given an order, they have to prepare a report on CARO 2020. This CARO report will be attached to this report. It will be having 21 clauses. These 21 clauses are predefined clause. Every clause will talk about something. So the auditor has to check these clauses and to report about it. For example, first clause is talking about fixed assets. Second is talking about inventory. So there are certain questions given in this report. These questions have to be validated by the auditor and the report has to be given. This is an order which is coming from central government, which is a Companies Auditors Report Order 2020. It has 21 predefined clauses and all these 21 clauses the auditor will have to report on. Okay. So we are going to have an in detail discussion about CARO, that is 2020. Alright. So that is going to be only in the case of company because the name itself suggests Companies Auditors Report Order. So when you talk about audit report, we will be discussing about 700 series in detail. Then we talk about company because in company the reporting about audit, like audit report is a little bit heavier. We have some additional reporting as per section 143. Plus you have some additional reporting in few companies called as CARO. Okay. So that we study as a part of audit report. Then we have the next chapter which is going to be special features of audit of different types of entities. What is different types of entities? See, basically when you talk about audit, when you're going to study, everywhere will come with an example of partnership firm, will come with the example of sole proprietors. We are going to talk about companies. But then understand, we are going to study about special entities also, like how audit of hospital will be done. We will talk about how audit of cinema hall will be done. Okay. Then how audit of LLPs will be done. How audit of PSU, public sector undertaking, government undertakings will be done. Correct? How audit of hotels will be done. Okay, local authorities, how it will be done, like municipalities, panchayat and all, how their audits will be done. So basically in this particular chapter, we are going to pick up some different type of businesses and we are going to understand in a very nutshell, in a summarized way, how their audit will be done. This is a very interesting one because you'll get an understanding, because hospitals, hotels, okay, these are something that you go there, okay, so you're aware of the kind of business. So how audit has to be done is something going to be interesting. So that is going to be a special feature, special type of audit above these entities. When you talk about government entities, when you talk about LLP, hospitals, government understand manipulation. So how audit has to be done? It is not going to be like regular audit. Some specific considerations are there, some different approaches there, some different auditor is available. Like we have Comptroller, Auditor General of India, an authority which will take care of this particular type of entity. So we are going to have a detailed discussion of who will be responsible, how it is to be done, what are different audit objectives, everything. Then bank. Again, very interesting. Every year in the month of April and all, we have the statutory audit of bank. Bank, a different ball game altogether. Banking Regulation Act is available. Different way in which they prepare the financial statements. Or bank, it's a regulatory sector because of which, public money involved. So a lot of, risk involved. So because of that, so many transactions happening, so many stakeholders are there. Because of that, the way in which the audit is done, the approach, the kind of reporting, everything is different. And because here the regulatory framework also is different, audit is also done in a slightly different and a very stringent manner. You have different type of audit report to be prepared. Apart from 700, you also have to prepare a different type of report called as long form audit report. The way in which audit is done, the methodology, everything will be different. So we are going to have a separate discussion about how audit of bank is done. Public sector, private sector banks, regional rural banks, okay, all of those things. And then last we talk about, basically I call it to be part B of this subject, which is nothing but ethics. Ethics is all the fundamental principles that you as chartered accountant should have, the moral values. You should have integrity, that means you have to be honest. You should be straightforward. You should be giving your judgment based on the evidences and not by your choice. You should be completely objective. What you have found, that should be your opinion. It should not be, oh, he's my friend, he's my relative, I know him. Okay, those all things should not affect your opinion. Your opinion is, this is the evidence, that is my opinion. You should be completely objective in your approach. Whatever information you get from the client, do not share it with the other. Confidentiality. You are a professional. Your professional behavior is very important. You should do everything with proper skill, care. You should have a competence, due diligence. Everything has to be there too. So all of this you'll be studying as a part of ethics, wherein you will understand how important it is for a chartered accountant to maintain the credibility of his profession. Once CA does something wrong, people will not remember his name. People will say, CA ne kiya hai. CA has done it. So basically, a particular person will not get affected. The profession will get affected. And because of which, we have ethical norms present. So when you talk about intermediate, you have only the introduction to fundamental principles. When you come to final, you'll also study what you can do and what you cannot do. So the code of ethics will be studied way in detail in the final. But as a part of intermediate, you only have the introduction to the code of ethics and you'll have a fundamental principle. You will study the concept of independence. We auditors are required to be completely independent of the client when we are supposed to do the audit. Nothing should be affecting our decision. We should not be subordinate to anybody. We should not have any kind of influential effect on us. We should only be independent. Okay? And if there is any threat, we need to avoid it, all of those things. So we are going to study about independence, threats to our independence, how we safeguard it and all of that. And here we study 3 standards. 2 which are standards on auditing. 1 is quality control. So we have 210 which talks about agreeing the terms of audit engagement. So audit engagement we are going to enter into, and this is quality control to be maintained. And SQC is about standard on quality control, which the audit firms, when they perform any audit, how they have to maintain the quality. Okay, so there is a difference between 220. This is while doing the audit, and this is for the firm to maintain the quality control principles. Okay, as of now, just get a names and get a briefing of it. When we do the respective things, we will get an elaborate understanding. So in this way, we are going to study the overall topic. And if you look at it, these 11 chapters, which are bifurcated into 2 modules, have so many things in detail, and there are altogether almost 25 standards which will be covered as a part of your syllabus. With this, you have got a proper grip of what the structure is, how the syllabus is designed for you, and you will be able to map properly which standard, which topic. It's a guarantee from my end that whatever 11 chapters that we have now discussed, where I've given you a glimpse, I've given you kind of a synopsis for understanding it, all of this word to word, line by line, paragraph to paragraph, we are going to understand with thorough conceptual clarity. By the end of completion of the syllabus, you will be knowing the subject of audit at the intermediate level in and out, so that be MCQ, be true or false, be subjective, you will be in a perfect position to answer all of it. Okay? Now, getting this backdrop, it is now the position for us that we can now begin with our discussion with the first chapter, and that is going to be the chapter 1, Nature, Objective and the Scope of Audit.